Yo, what is up, you guys, and welcome back into One Piece chapter 1109 spoiler chats. We're here to kick the can down the road and just talk a little bit about this latest chapter. Mainly the ending of the chapter, because that is the real doozy here. So before we hop into it though, I'm assuming that you guys have already read the spoilers for yourself and you're now watching this video. But yeah. At the end of this chapter, we see that Saint Saturn is attempting to summon the rest of the Gorosei here to Egghead Island. Absolutely insane. Not gonna lie, when I was first reading the spoilers, I was a little bit disappointed. I was like, okay, I guess we're not getting no Ancient Kingdom lore, right? Like, I guess we waited a week and speculated for nothing, right? It's gonna be out later, whatever. And then you hit the end of the chapter, and then all is forgiven, right? Like, okay, maybe we don't need the Ancient Kingdom. Maybe we just need some straight up action here on Egghead Island. And that is exactly what we're getting. So we're not really too sure how Saint Saturn is going about it, but the spoilers do suggest that the rest of the Gorosei are going to be making an appearance here pretty dang soon. If I had to take a guess as to how Saturn is summoning the rest of the Gorosei, there's two real main camps that it could go into. One, it could be the magic summoning circles that we saw when Saint Saturn first arrived, right? He had the pentagram, he had the number 5 for Saint Saturn, and then boom, Saint Saturn appeared in his giant demonic form. Maybe it is the same way for the other Gorosei. Maybe we see satanic circle number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then we have this crazy black lightning coming out of them. That could be a good indicator that the Gorosei are being summoned. Another way that I could see Oda going with Saint Saturn bringing in the Gorosei is that maybe this has to do with his role of scientist, because Saint Saturn is the scientific defense warrior god person. Sorry, I kind of butchered that title, but you guys know what I mean. But maybe Saint Saturn is playing around with some sort of new technology and he's able to teleport people over here, because we do have to remember that, you know, if Saint Saturn is lore accurate and he is from the Void Century, or he knows about the Void Century, and we know that the Void Century has technology greater than Vegapunk, it's like, okay, teleportation doesn't seem too out of whack, because Vegapunk can teleport, so people in the Void Century probably could do the same thing. So maybe there is some instance of that here on Egghead Island, and Saint Saturn is showing off what the Void Century was capable of. Like I said, Oda can tackle this many different ways, but at the end of the day, it does look like the rest of the Gorosei are about to make an appearance here. And now comes the big question of how are we going to handle this? How are the Straw Hat Pirates going to escape? Is Luffy going to 1v6? Because right now, he's 1v2ing, right? Luffy is fighting Kizaru, he's fighting Saturn, and according to the spoilers, Luffy is doing pretty damn well. He is taking Saturn in one hand, taking Kizaru in the other hand, and no joke, he is slapping them together and flattening them like a pancake. Sun God Nika Luffy is literally dominating this fight. But what would happen if we add in the rest of the Gorosei? Yes, Saint Saturn has been underwhelming in this fight against Luffy, but he's still a monster at the end of the day. We still don't know how to actually hurt him. You bring in 4 other characters of that caliber who are potentially stronger than Saint Saturn into this fight, and it's like, yo, I don't know if Luffy can do this, you know? Like, yeah, sure, Luffy 1v2, 1v3, 1v4, sure. But Luffy versus all of the Gorosei? What is going on here? It's like Kaido on the rooftop fighting the worst generation in the Scabbards. Luffy's having his Onigashima moment here. It is so crazy, and I feel like there are a lot of different ways this could go down, and I just want to discuss some of the possibilities we have in front of us. So I want to lay it down first and just say that I do not believe that Luffy is actually going to beat the Gorosei here. I feel like the chances of all of the Gorosei falling here on Egghead Island are pretty much 0. Like, come on, these are supposed to be the final villains, right? I thought we were saving these old dudes for Marie Joie, the final war. There's no way they're just gonna kick the bucket here on Egghead. I feel like that would be somewhat anticlimactic, but maybe that's just me, right? But I am gonna play with that idea first. Let's say Luffy sees the Gorosei, he squares off against them, and he leaves. How would that be possible? Because here's the thing, Sabo managed to escape the Gorosei back in the Holy Land, but Sabo had a couple of things going for him. He was, 1, by himself, 2, the Gorosei couldn't exactly leave the throne room in their demon forms because obviously there are civilians nearby, and 3, Sabo is a spy, right? He is just really good at escaping. And there were a lot of ships there at the Reverie that Sabo could hitch a ride on. Sabo had a lot of things going for him in that scenario. Whereas Luffy and the Straw Hats here don't exactly have that luxury. Not only do they have to make sure their entire crew gets off, but also the Gorosei are already running rampant. Saturn isn't worried about people seeing his demonic form. So they can go on a straight up rampage here. They can chase down the Straw Hats if they wanted to. How is this going to play out? Is Luffy going to have to knock the Gorosei far enough back to where they can safely escape? Or is Dory and Bragi going to cover their exit? Because I'm not going to lie, I think that might be what Oda is setting up here. Because we see that Dory and Bragi, you know, in chapter 1108, are on their way to assist Luffy. In 1109, it sounds like Dory and Bragi have not showed up yet. How? I have no idea. Considering they saw Frankie last chapter and they're giants, I have no idea how they just didn't make it to the center of Egghead Island yet. But hey, you know, I'm not gonna size scale Egghead Island and how long it takes to travel around here. But yeah, the giants should be showing up pretty dang soon. So maybe there exists a scenario where Dory and Bragi are like, hey, Luffy, Straw Hat, you know, your crew is on our ship. They're ready to leave. You can go now too, and then we'll hold off these bozos. Maybe that's what's going to happen here. Maybe Dory and Bragi are going to take a stand for Luffy, which I don't think is too far-fetched, because I have seen people saying that, oh, why would Dory and Bragi fight this battle for Luffy, right? Yeah, he's a friend. Yeah, they owe him a favor, but why would they fight to the death? Well, not only do they owe Luffy a favor, but Luffy is the sun god, right? The Elbaf warriors love the sun god. So I do think that Dory and Bragi, given the right circumstances, would throw down their lives for Luffy. Which, hey, if that happens, if Dory and Bragi actually stay here to fight the Gorosei, or at least help Luffy fight the Gorosei, that would be nuts. Like, dude, we met these giants 1,000 chapters ago. If you told me 20 years ago that Dory and Bragi, the Mr. 3 victims, I hate that I call them that, but I think it's kind of funny. But if you told me that the Mr. 3 victims are the people who help Luffy fight the Gorosei and Kizaru, I would laugh at you, dude. Like, come on. It's crazy to think that this is actually a matchup that we're going to get. You know, whether or not this is a full-fledged battle or whether or not Luffy leaves and Dory and Bragi hold the lines, the fact of the matter stands. Dory and Bragi are going to be up here with some of the greatest powers in the verse. Yeah, dude, I'm gonna have to see some Dory and Bragi in some top 20s, man. It's actually kind of crazy. And hey, if that is the case, I am really curious to see how this fight is gonna turn out. Do Dory and Bragi fare well? Do they stave off the Gorosei? Maybe they come in and they're like, hey, no, Saint Saturn, Saint Jupiter, you know, like, we're not fighting today. You're letting this man set sail. I have no clue. Oda, week after week, just always impresses me by how unpredictable some of the story elements are, right? Last week, everybody was like, oh, what's Vegapunk's message? What's Vegapunk's message? What's Vegapunk's message? And then this week, Oda said, hey, forget Vegapunk's message, right? He wants you guys to take a bathroom break and get your popcorn ready. Instead, let's bring in the Gorosei. It's like, yo, what is going on, man? But yeah, there is one more possibility I do want to talk about with the Straw Hats just simply escaping this battle. And then we'll talk about the Straw Hats actually fighting them. So the last possibility I do want to mention right here is that if the Straw Hats escape, if Dory and Bragi do truly stay behind and let them go, one thing that I do think could actually happen, like the stocks are going up and down every single week for me, but there exists a scenario where Dragon could show up. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but hey, at first, when people saw Saint Saturn, they were like, yo, Dragon, this is the perfect time for him to stop by and beat a Gorosei member. That's huge. But now we got all 5, right? We got all 5 eggs in the basket. I think if Dragon were to show up here, he would be, 1, a great force to fend off the Gorosei, and 2, he could even be a great way to have the Gorosei not fight in this battle. Maybe they see Dragon and they're like, oh, Dragon will fight you a different day, or, you know, something like that. I don't know. But hey, if the Gorosei could somehow go from the top of the red line to here on Egghead Island, I do believe that Dragon can go from Kamabaka Queendom to Egghead Island in a day as well. Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers, right? The Dragon stocks, like I said, up and down, up and down, up and down. Maybe he'll make his appearance here. Maybe he is also someone who helps the Straw Hats escape, and then he is a reason why Dory and Bragi also make it out of this battle alive. Because let's be real, Dorian Bragi are being upscaled into oblivion. Kizaru and Saint Saturn, when they were the only two opponents, I actually felt pretty good about Dorian Bragi. I was like, yo, yeah, they could step in here and they can help Luffy and we can all like sing Kumbaya and leave together. I thought that was a real possibility. But now that we're adding in the other 4 Gorosei members, I don't know, man. I don't know. But I do gotta say, if it is just Dorian Bragi fighting them and they escape alive, that will be a massive, massive Gorosei L. Like, Luffy making it out of this battle okay is fine because he's the sun god, right? But Dorian Bragi, like, oh man, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think the one thing that Dorian Bragi have going for them is how much we don't know about their strength. Like, maybe they are characters who know how to hurt the Gorosei, right? Because that is the main problem right now. How do we hurt Saint Saturn? Luffy mentions it in this chapter that whenever he hits Saturn, he just simply regenerates. Maybe Dorian Bragi have the solution to that. Maybe it has something to do with Elbaf lore or their weapons, but that is yet to be seen. And also, we don't know what the other Gorosei members are capable of either. If they're all stronger than Saturn, and if they can all regenerate like Saturn, it's like, okay, we have an unwinnable battle on our hands. And yeah, I personally don't think we're going to be beating these guys here. I feel like it's too soon. Like, yeah, Saint Saturn by himself, Kizaru, sure. We can beat them, right? It would make sense. We beat one Gorosei member here. We go on to the next one, the next one. Cool. But when you bring all 5 of the, quote, N-tier villains onto this one island, it's like, okay, maybe we don't fight them here. And also, another thing that would strike me as odd is if we were to beat all of the Gorosei without seeing the Holy Knights. All we have is Garling, and we haven't even, seen him from the Straw Hat's point of view yet. Luffy doesn't even know those guys exist. So yeah, beating the Gorosei without even seeing the Holy Knights would just be really odd. And yeah, I do think this is a scenario where we simply just leave the island. We exchange a couple of blows, maybe we knock out Jupiter, and then we're like, hey, let's bounce, boys, let's bounce. But yeah, on to now what would happen if the opposite of what I expect happens, where the Straw Hats actually see the Gorosei and they say, yo, let's fight these old dudes. Of course, like I said, I don't think that's going to happen, but I am going to play devil's advocate here. Okay, so as far as Luffy goes, we have seen pretty much throughout Egghead Island that Luffy is that guy. I honestly think Luffy could take out Kizaru, Saturn, and hell, throw in another Gorosei member, and I also think Luffy can take them out too. Like, Luffy is just that unstoppable now that he is getting used to Gear 5th. I don't want to say mastered because I don't think he mastered it quite yet, but yeah, Luffy is constantly getting stronger and better with Gear 5th. But even with that being the case, Luffy still has a time limit. He can't last in Gear 5th forever, right? He ran out of steam against Kizaru, he ran out of steam against Kaido. It's a thing that just happens very often. This has been a thing ever since Luffy got Gear 2nd. Luffy got Gear 2nd, Gear 3rd, Gear 4th. He just always runs out of stamina. That is a running theme in One Piece. So I don't think Luffy would be able to win a long drawn-out battle against all of the Gorosei plus Kizaru. I think he will need help. And I do think that if we fight this battle, this could be when Zoro steps in. This could be when Jinbei steps in. Sanji even. We could have Frankie and the Giants come back in. I feel like we do have enough heavy hitters here to fight off the Gorosei. I truly do believe that. I don't think these are going to be easy fights by any means. Maybe for Luffy it'll be easy, but for Zoro, who has already been fighting Lucci, and for Sanji, who's already activated his exoskeleton, I feel like they will have very extreme diff fights. And like I said earlier, like Saturn, from my understanding, is the weakest out of the Gorosei. So if you're bringing in people who are stronger than Saturn and who might even be able to regenerate like Saturn, it's like, I don't know if we can win this battle. Like, if we do win this, it is definitely going to be like an extreme diff fight. Like, these guys have powers that we don't exactly know of yet, right? Like Saturn, we're still debating if Saturn has a Zoan Devil Fruit or if it's some weird scientific magic transformation. We just have no idea. One thing though that the Straw Hats, in my opinion, do have going for them is the fact that Bonnie is on this island. Might sound a little bit strange at first, but hear me out. Bonnie has the ability to bring people into different timelines. She can touch you, and then boom, you're really old, but from a bad timeline, right? We saw her do that to Luffy, Jinbei, Chopper, whatever. She can even do it to herself. So I do think there exists a reality where if we do, for some reason, square off against the Gorosei here and fight them to the death, I do think that Bonnie could play a significant role by aging the Straw Hats to their prime selves. This isn't a new theory. People have been talking about this since the day Oda revealed what Luffy would look like in his prime. And hey, I do think Bonnie has the ability to do that. Maybe she sees Luffy struggling. Maybe Zoro, Sanji, everybody is struggling against the Gorosei. And Bonnie says, hey, here's 20 years, buddy. Here's your good timeline. And then all of the Straw Hats get this massive, massive power boost. I feel like that is in the cards eventually. Is this something Oda wants to use here on Egghead Island? I'm not too sure. Like I said, I'm still on the boat that we're going to clash and then we're going to escape. Because when you really think about it, you know, I just want to re-justify why I believe we're not going to fight these guys to the death right here. But Brook and Lilith are flying off with the Thousand Sunny. A lot of the Straw Hats are talking about leaving. Jinbei is on his way to get Zoro so that they can leave. Frankie, Atlas, Bonnie, and Kuma are on the giant ship so they can depart as well. Luffy told Sanji last chapter to take Vegapunk and escape. The prerogative here on Egghead Island has always been escape. Even before the Gorosei showed up, even when it was just 30,000 Marines, Luffy said, hey guys, let's get out of here, right? Like, we never wanted to fight a full battle. We just simply wanted to save Bonnie and Vegapunk. But hey, I mean, I guess Vegapunk's dead now, so I guess we could fight. But like I said, I don't know, man. Like, making predictions in One Piece is always so fun because we guess one thing and then Oda gives us another thing. Some people will look at that and say, no, 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 YouTubers. No, 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 people with free will and thoughts. Don't speculate about the next chapter because you never know what Oda's going to pull out next. But I think that's the fun part about this, right? We go in with one expectation and then Oda hits us with the curveball and it's always an excellent, excellent time. But hey, with that being said, let me know what you guys think is going to go down here. Do you think we're going to fight the Gorosei? Do you think we're going to clash and leave? Or do you think we are simply just going to leave? And also, what do you think about the Gorosei if they show up here and do not catch a single body? I think that'd be pretty crazy, right? Like, you have the world's highest authority, the world's greatest powers showing up here to Egghead Island, and if they don't get the job done, they're going to be a laughingstock. Like, I know they're coming here to stop the message that Vegapunk is throwing out there, but I don't even know if they can do that, right? Like, how do you stop Vegapunk's Den Den Mushi internet message? It's like trying to delete a YouTube video while it's playing. Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to show up here and destroy Punk Records? I don't know. Will that stop the message? I'm not too sure. Like, I feel like the Gorosei are going to come here and they're just going to be really confused because Vegapunk, according to the heart monitor from last chapter, he flatlined. Like, what are you going to do? Shake his dead body and ask him to stop the message? I don't know. I don't know. I think the easiest thing the Gorosei could have done at this point is to simply just Leloucia Egghead Island. But I guess, you know, they don't want to do that because Saturn is here, Kizaru is here, so they don't want to, like, risk their lives. But I don't know. I think the world government is just set up for a massive, massive L. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. What are your thoughts coming out of these spoilers? Like I said, what do you think about the Gorosei? I would love to hear everything down below. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Sai, signing out.